LobbyLessons. It's Donna and Julie, and Brad's going to join us in a second. Today we're going to talk about the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, and why it's important and how it's helpful in our daily lives. So it's kind of cute because I know Julie and I are a little nervous about talking about this right now live, and it's going to bring up a lot of questions in our audience, I'm sure of it. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section afterwards, and we'll be happy to get back with you because this is great stuff to have a discussion on. Now that Brad's joined us too. So one of the sutras that we used was recommended to me by my teacher, Bhakti Das, aka Ellen Harris, Hamsa Yoga, shout out. It's by Swami Satchidananda, and I didn't slaughter that as bad as I thought I would. And it's a really easy translation to read, which is why I kind of liked it.
Can't miss the guy with the pink blanket.
And who doesn't like the guy with the pink blanket? Really, you can't miss that.
And that beard.
So, as I'm getting ready to gear up for our winter teacher training, I always come back to the Yoga Sutras and try and figure out how to best introduce it to people who are new to this, which brought me down the path to my heart of yoga, the Sakichar and Krishnamacharya. And the Yoga Sutras is given credit, the person who wrote it is called Patanjali, and I love the picture of this statue. I'm not sure how well that's going to come out. Probably not at all. So when you're in the studio, come by and check out the book and look at the statue. And you can feel like the peace and the love radiating off of it, which is pretty cool. So anyway, Patanjali wrote the Yoga Sutras. He codified it, which means he took a bunch of information that was contained in the Vedas, which are other historical books, and simplified it in a sutra form, stringing it together, looping it, and in a really concise manner, so that we could understand them and have these teachings at our hands. The cool thing about it is it's really complementary to today's society too. So it's really gone with the ages as far as how the sutras can relate into our own daily lives. So with that being said, it starts off with the very first sutra, well actually the second sutra, because the first one we usually ignore, which means first, he says that here I'm an authoritative figure on yoga, and this is what it means. And then the second sutra starts with Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which means, in this case, Swatananda's, and how it's usually defined as calming or stilling the fluctuations of the mind stuff. But I really like how the Sakichar defines it as the ability to direct the mind exclusively toward an object and sustain that direction without any distractions. Kind of means the same thing, just said a little differently. So this can be thought about in a lot of ways, and then usually after that you get a commentary from whoever wrote their version of the sutra on what Patanjali meant at that time and to a specific audience. So what is, oh, you're not on that one. So,
Oh, yep, I've got it right here.
that's okay. So Julie, go ahead and talk about what you did today.
Okay, so what I usually do with the Yoga Sutras, almost any book now, but this is the book that started this sort of ritual for me. I just open the book to any page that pops open, and then I read that, and it almost always pertains to either me or who I'm talking about the specific book to. And so today I opened up to book 2, sutra number 1, and it says, I'm not even going to try in Sanskrit. We'll ask Alan later.
Somebody post the translation of that.
But it says, accepting pain as help for purification, study of spiritual books, and surrender to the Supreme Being constitute yoga in practice. So, accepting pain as help for purification, that is tapas. During class, you've probably heard us talk about that internal heat or that internal fire that we're building. We can build it physically, we can also build it mentally and emotionally. And just to help purify us so that eventually the mind does become a lot more calm, and there's less modifications and distractions. Going on, there's Svadhyaya, and that is study of spiritual books and also self-study. And I think that's really where it applies to us in a contemporary manner in today's world. There's a lot less study of spiritual books and more study online to figure out what's going on inside of us, and that is why meditation is so great too. That's a big help in Svadhyaya. And then also surrender to the Supreme Being. That is just the ultimate surrender, Ishvara Pranidhana. That's as much as you can explain it. You just surrender. It's that simple.
Easy said, hard to do.
Yeah. And so that, it's just basically saying that is what constitutes yoga in practice. So I really like how Swami Satchidananda explained it. So in his little explanation at the bottom, it says, although control of the senses and organs often seems to bring pain in the beginning, it eventually ends in happiness. And I'm sure all of you have experienced this in your first yoga class here. It's physical uncomfortability, social uncomfortability at first, but it always ends good. At least here at Good Karma. And then it goes on to say, if tapas is understood in this light, we will look forward to pain. We will even thank people who cause it, since they are giving us the opportunity to steady our minds and burn out impurities. So that can sound a little wild, thank people that cause us pain, and not in every single case, but if you can sort of just take the time today to, if someone makes you angry or upset, just sort of look inward first, take a second to reflect, that's that Svadhyaya, and then allow that emotion to come up in you without reacting outwardly, and allow that to sort of fire you up and burn off that impurity, whatever someone said or did that caused anger or resentment or made you upset. Usually always is stemmed from something in you. So just allowing it to burn off that impurity. And then surrendering. Ishvara Pranidhana.
Which brings you back to calming the mind.
Yes.
Once we begin to sit long enough and accept the feelings and emotions, then we can deal with them in a non-reactive manner, which would relate back to calming those fluctuations of the mind. And not falling victim to the fight or flight response that often happens when we're emotionally hurt.
Triggered.
Good word.
Yes.
Brett, what do you have to add to our Yoga Sutras?
Absolutely nothing of value. I don't know why I'm here.
Well, that's the question, right? Why are we here?
There you
go.
I like the since we were talking about the difference in the books in Yoga Sutras, I'm not going to try Satchidananda's name either.
Right.
Oh, sorry. But the way he writes it out and then breaks it down step by step, actually, I was just thinking what we need to do next time is have the book over there, and then I'll just drop it down in front of the camera so you guys can all read it. And then I'll lift it back up and you can talk about it, but it would be nice to have a little picture-in-picture thing.
Because if you are a language buff,
yeah,
it is nice
it's
to sing
fascinating
it.
to look at. It actually says tapas, Svadhyaya, Pranidhana. I mean, it breaks it down nicely, and you get an idea of
actually what we
it
can
really
do
means when
is
you understand this a little
we'll
more
list
deep.
it.
Yeah, we'll
Ooh.
just take a picture of it and post it on our Facebook. So
In the comments.
Stay tuned for that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'll put that right up after this.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
There we go.
and with sort of the thought, this always brings me back to teacher training as well as Donna. Is there any one of these that you sort of connected to a lot during teacher training? These niyamas like tapas or Svadhyaya. What one stuck out?
Geez, that was
to
a
you?
long time ago. I don't really remember.
I know.
I remember tapas being the one that I had to do like during training we all did a project and we all picked, I think we all got one yama and we all got one niyama or something like that. And tapas was my yama, and that was like the first one we got, so it was super serious at the time.
Yeah.
So I just read like 1,000 things on it, and then so I don't know, that one always has a spot for me.
Yeah.
but who doesn't like Svadhyaya and Nispar Pranidhana just because they're fun to say?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
I think Svadhyaya, try that again. Svadhyaya, self-study is usually the hardest one because it's hard to see ourselves. So it's easy to read the scriptural reading and apply it to other people. What's difficult is trying to apply it to ourselves and to start seeing ourselves as others see us, which is why teacher training is also a real gift, because then you do have those mirrors right in front of you with your other fellow students going through it.
Yeah, that and Svadhyaya is the one that really stuck out to me during teacher training. That's what started my meditation practice, was just sitting and being with yourself. And now it's part of my daily practice to, whenever I notice maybe like an unkind word or thought or something pop up in my head, or even an action, I'll step back and say, okay, what part of your brain or what part of you decided to act, think, or say that thing?
Yeah, where'd that come from?
Yeah. And so that's the one
Who's
that's
in
always
charge
stuck with me.
anyway?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so since we're digressing, something that I came across recently in a conversation with Bhakti Das again, but is that for me I have a lot of the opposite. I tend to spend a lot of time in self-contemplation, and for me it's exactly the opposite. It's by looking at other people that I learn more, that I, instead of learning about me and projecting it onto them, I learn about them and reflect that back as to how that relates to me. It's just a yin versus yang kind of approach to how your brain works.
And then you realize that everyone really is you.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
So I did really like how he broke it down in there. Did you want to read book 2?
So the way that
Maybe we
Dasaki
just go
Char,
whole
this is the point of the Yoga Sutras, is to develop a healthy conversation so that we can work out how things work in our own minds instead of driving ourselves crazy. So the way that Dasaki Char describes it is the practice of yoga must reduce both physical and mental impurities. It must develop our capacity for self-examination and help us to understand that in the final analysis, we are not the masters of everything we do. So it has a little bit different take on the same thing. So you have to develop your tapas, self-study, and by making sure you remember that we're not the masters of everything we do is the Ishwara Pranidhana part. You have to, at some point, let go and let help be given to you. And I think that's a really big challenge. And as we age, I think it gets harder for most of us to accept help, especially help we can't see. That goes to a whole other topic.
Yeah, that's for another week.
That's right. Maybe that's next week.
And so then, so that's how they define Sutra 2.1. But then the commentary on it is also, if the practice of yoga does not help us to remove the symptoms and causes of our physical and mental problems, it cannot lead us on to discovering our inner beings and does not lead us to understand the nature and quality of actions. So we're back to the tapas and self-study again. In such circumstances, the practice will be of doubtful validity. The more we refine ourselves through yoga, the more we realize that all our actions need to be re-examined systematically, and we must not take the fruits of our actions for granted.
Oh, back to gratitude.
And even tying that back into that tapas, that accepting pain as help for purification. Sometimes you cause your own pain. You do an action that's not in line with what you necessarily believe or think or want to portray yourself as, and you get that pinch of guilt or, oh, I shouldn't have said that, and just realizing like that you need to have gratitude for that, accept it as it was, apologize, and move on from there. It's all a learning experience.
It is. Apology and forgiveness, two of the biggest benefits in any life.
So what we've learned from this one is make a painful mistake.
Yes.
Learn something
Go
from
out
it.
and be mean. No, don't do
Learn
that.
something about yourself from it, about forgiveness or acceptance, and then let that go.
Let it go.
Put that away, all
Yep.
done, thank you, I got something out of this. Hopefully this is what I was supposed to learn and I won't have to do this one again.
And then letting go leads us into attachment. No, we'll stop there.
All right.
So I think we're going to wrap this one up.
Yeah.
I think so.
Thanks for tuning in. We'd love to hear your feedback on what you think about our Yoga Sutras, and if you would like to hear more, because we've got lots of books we can share knowledge from. And that's part of what our lobby lessons are. Asana is really important, but there's 7 other limbs to explore. So
Yeah.
we'd like to explore them all.
And if you'd like to take a few minutes today to just sit and meditate in that self-study, do it and respond in the comments how it went for you, if any of these tapas or anything like that came up. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Namaste.
Namaste.
There's that. And, oh, it's not going to reach. There you go. Screenshot that or something. Good
We'll
luck.
still post it.
See you Saturday morning.